History is not truth. It is a stage play, scripted by victors, edited by priests, rehearsed by institutions until the story feels permanent. But beneath their edits, a whisper remained, carved not on fragile parchment, but in living emerald, a voice that refused to decay. They called it the Emerald Tablet, a shard of eternity. A relic that spoke in equations and symbols, holding the code of how worlds are born, how energy condenses into form, how the invisible gives birth to the visible. Not poetry, a formula. And that made it dangerous. Kings tried to silence it. Empires tried to bury it. The church disguised it. For if the many held this code, no ruler could rule, no dogma could contain, no illusion could survive. Yet still, the tablet resurfaced, in the chants of alchemists, in symbols carved into cathedral walls, in manuscripts whispered through secret orders, always hidden, always veiled, because this was never knowledge for the crowd. It was a key for those who dared, and who gave us this key. They called him Thoth, neither god nor man, but something in between. The keeper of balance, the scribe of worlds, said to have walked the ruins of Atlantis, carrying fragments of its light into the temples of Egypt, and from there into the Hermetic tradition that seeded Western mysticism itself. The tablet was his signature, not just a text, but a doorway, a ritual carved in stone for those brave enough to face the fire of initiation. Its words do not simply describe reality, they shape it. And when decoded, they reveal a truth so unsettling, so liberating, that it collapses the false architecture of history. This is not a myth, not a curiosity for scholars. The Emerald Tablet is a mirror, and once you see what it reflects, you cannot unsee it. You will never look at death the same way. You will never look at life the same way. You will realize that what you thought was the end was always the passage, and that what you called reality was only the shadow of a deeper law. In this video, we will uncover the hidden meaning of the Emerald Tablet and why it was hidden in the first place. Because knowledge this dangerous is never destroyed. It is only disguised, waiting for the moment someone like you dares to listen. Power does not vanish, it hides. Throughout history, the most dangerous truths were never burned. They were buried. Not because they lacked value, but because they carried too much. The Emerald Tablet was not concealed out of irrelevance, but out of fear. Imagine giving fire to a child who has never seen flame. Imagine handing the blueprint of creation to a civilization still fighting over bread. Knowledge of that magnitude would not only liberate, it would destabilize. Priests and kings understood this. They knew that if the many possessed the tablet's code, hierarchies would dissolve. Temples would lose their monopoly over the sacred. Thrones would lose their right to command. And so they cloaked it, disguising fragments within alchemical symbols, hiding echoes within architecture, muting the language so that only the initiated could follow the thread. But secrecy is never only control, it is also initiation. The very act of hiding transforms the seeker. When truth is veiled, only those willing to cross deserts, decipher riddles, and suffer exile can touch it. The concealment of the Emerald Tablet was itself a test, a ritual in plain sight. Those who lacked the patience or courage were filtered out. Those who persisted became alchemists, mystics, philosophers, carriers of the flame. And here lies the paradox. The tablet was hidden, yes, but it was never truly lost. Its symbols bled into cathedrals, its maxims whispered into the language of secret societies, its formula disguised in the metaphors of science. Even in suppression, it spoke. Like a seed encased in stone, waiting for the pressure of centuries to crack the shell, it endured. Because truth of that caliber cannot be destroyed, it can only be delayed. So when you ask, why was the Emerald Tablet hidden? The answer is not merely politics or fear. It was hidden because humanity was not ready. And in many ways, it still isn't. For the tablet does not hand you power neatly wrapped. It forces you to confront yourself, your illusions, your shadows, your false identities. That is the fire behind the emerald, and that is why so many still look away. Most imagine the emerald tablet as stone, cold, silent, inert. But it was never an object. It was an architecture, a cipher, a living equation disguised in poetry, so that only those with inner sight could feel the machinery hidden between the lines. Take its most famous phrase, "As above, so below." To modern ears it sounds like a proverb, a nice decoration for a book of quotes. But in truth, it is no motto. It is mathematics. It declares that the same pattern spiraling galaxies also shapes the pulse in your veins. That the logic that turns the stars also turns the stories looping in your mind. What Hermeticists sang as mystery, science now stumbles upon in laboratories, fractals repeating without end, particles entangled across space, a universe written like a hologram where each fragment reflects the whole. Physics measures what the tablet already encoded. And here lies the secret. The tablet does not wait for belief. Like an operating system buried deep in the architecture of reality, it executes itself. Law after law, rhythm after rhythm, cycle after cycle. You are not asked to worship. You are invited to recognize, to align, to learn the native tongue of creation itself. Think of it not as scripture, but as source code. Each principle is a line in the architecture of existence. Each metaphor, a key designed to fit the lock of your perception. And the deeper you read, the more you realize. The tablet was less about instructing you to worship and more about teaching you to build. To build thought into matter, desire into form, imagination into world, and behind every line of that code, a hand is implied, the one who first inscribed the law into stone and into consciousness, which brings us to the figure who was never just a man and never only a god. Thoth. History names him a god. Egypt painted him with the head of an ibis, the scribe of the divine. But in truth, he is the architect implied in every law, the intelligence behind the formula itself, the bridge between Atlantis and Egypt, between invisible principle and visible world. Thoth was never just a deity of one land. He is the pulse between Atlantean memory and Egyptian ritual, between Hermetic wisdom and the whispers of Amenti. Not God, not man, but something that moves between worlds. Atlantis, they say, collapsed beneath the sea. Yet in truth, it collapsed beneath its own pride, a civilization that turned away from harmony. And in that fall, a seed was carried forward. Thoth did not vanish with the waters. He became the ferryman of wisdom, preserving the code that would later be carved in emerald. Just as now, in our age of glass towers and restless machines, humanity risks repeating the same forgetting. The tablet is not just a relic. It is a mirror of every civilization that rises and falls when it strays from truth. Thoth appears, then, not as myth, but as the eternal mediator. Imagine not a figure hunched over papyrus, but a luminous presence etching symbols into the fabric of reality itself. His writing is not ink, but vibration. Not letters, but laws. The 7 Hermetic principles are not teachings he left behind. They are the architecture of the cosmos itself, breathed through him as a living code. To encounter the tablet is to encounter Thoth, not the painted god of tombs, but the phantom initiator, standing at the threshold between life and death, time and eternity. He is less a character of history, more a current of initiation, one that still flows toward those who dare to listen. And when it reaches you, it does not ask for belief. It asks only, are you ready to cross? Every age has its guardians of truth, and its thieves. Knowledge has never simply disappeared. It has been taken, rewritten, veiled. The Emerald Tablet was not the only victim. From the fires of Alexandria to the sealed vaults of empires, every loss of wisdom has been a transfer of power. What seems like destruction is often nothing more than translation, from one set of hands to another. The church, the empires, the secret orders, all claim to protect humanity from dangerous truths. But behind that excuse lay something far simpler: control. To shape what people believed about the cosmos was to shape what they believed about themselves. To dim the tablet's light was to keep the soul in chains, docile and unquestioning. Imagine layers of veils being draped across a single flame. Each veil whispers a new narrative. This is myth. This is superstition. This is heresy. Yet the flame burns on, steady, unyielding. You can bury the light, but you cannot extinguish it. Across centuries, seekers still found the glow seeping through the cracks. Alchemists, mystics, scientists, each generation lifting one veil, only to find another still hiding the fire beneath. This is the hidden economy of history, not the movement of gold or armies, but the circulation of forbidden wisdom. And if the tablet still whispers today, it is because no power, not king, not church, not empire, has ever been strong enough to silence it. The truth waits, patient, beneath every edit and every lie. It waits for the one who dares to pierce the veil. When the tablet could no longer speak openly, it spoke in symbols. Alchemy became its disguise. The cryptic drawings of furnaces and flasks were never about turning lead into gold. They were blueprints for the transformation of the soul. The stone the alchemists sought was not mineral, but memory, the eternal spark of the divine hidden within matter itself. Secret orders rose, cloaked in ritual and emblem: the Rosicrucians, the Hermetic Brotherhoods, the magicians of the Renaissance. Each carried fragments of the tablet's code, encrypted in allegory. They were not inventing mysteries, but preserving one, ensuring that the flame continued to flicker, however faintly, beneath the shadow of repression. And now, the veil grows thin once again. Science itself begins to echo what the ancients already inscribed in emerald. Quantum physics whispers of entanglement, as above, so below. Fractal geometry reveals the same pattern repeating from galaxies to cells, the code of correspondence. Fields and vibrations speak the language of the cosmos that Hermetists once intuited. The laboratory, once mocking the occult, now finds itself haunted by the same truths in new language. The tablet does not belong to the past. It is a river whose course bends and shifts, but whose waters never dry. In alchemical texts, in mystical rites, in equations on a physicist's blackboard, the same current flows. The question is not whether the code survives. It is whether you are ready to recognize its echo in every corner of existence. If the tablet's current has flowed unseen for centuries, why does it rise now, shimmering again on the surface of human awareness? Because history itself moves in spirals, not straight lines, and every spiral brings us back to the same threshold, but at a higher octave. The secrets once veiled for kings and initiates now knock at the door of the collective mind. The age of information has torn the monopoly from priests and empires. The internet is a new library of Alexandria, but this time, the scrolls cannot be burned. Fragments long scattered across cultures, symbols once whispered in shadows, now resurface in the light of countless screens. What was once hidden in temples emerges as a global initiation, and like every initiation, it demands more than curiosity. It demands transformation. For the tablet is not just knowledge returning, it is a ritual resurfacing. To approach its wisdom is to step into the same chamber where ancient seekers faced their trials. It strips you bare, confronts you with your illusions, and whispers the truth behind every fear. What you call ending, it calls passage. What you name loss, it names initiation. That is why it resurfaces in our age of collapse. The world trembles on the edge, just as Atlantis once did. The old order cracks under its own weight. Climate, wars, disconnection, despair. And here the hidden lesson emerges. The collapse itself is the initiation. Death, personal or civilizational, is not silence, but a doorway. The tablet does not resurface to entertain. It returns as medicine, as mirror, as warning. Picture it, a beacon piercing through fog, not to the curious, but to the ready. For those who feel the echo stir in their bones, the message is clear. This is not myth returning, but memory. The tablet emerges when the world is again at the crossroads, and the choice is the same it has always been: to cling to the sleep of endings, or to awaken through the death that was never final. If the tablet were only stone, its return would matter little. But its lines are not etched just in emerald, they are inscribed in the psyche of every seeker. To gaze into its words is to see yourself reflected back, not as you pretend to be, but as you are, fragile, luminous, unfinished. As above, so below, is not poetry to quote, but a mirror to endure. The same forces that turn galaxies also turn the smallest corners of your life. The loops you repeat, the wounds you carry, the dreams that won't die. These are the emerald lines written within you. The tablet is less an artifact than a diagnosis, the cosmos coded into your flesh. And here, the initiation becomes personal. For the greatest veil is not in libraries or temples, but in the stories you tell yourself. To walk the path of the tablet is to let those stories die. The ego resists, trembling before the silence it calls death. Yet that death is the initiation. The breakdowns you fear, the endings you mourn, are simply the tablet unfolding through you, stripping away what cannot pass the gate. So the question is no longer historical. It is intimate. Will you read the tablet as myth, or will you let it read you? Will you protect your illusions, or will you accept the death that births vision? The emerald mirror waits, not to be decoded, but to be entered. And only those willing to step through, to lose everything they thought they were, will discover what it has whispered since the beginning, that nothing real can ever die. The emerald tablet was never truly hidden, not from history, not from time, only from the eyes that were not yet prepared to bear its fire. Kings tried to guard it, priests disguised it in riddles, flames sought to devour it in Alexandria, and yet it remained, because truth does not vanish. It withdraws, waiting for the worthy. But the tablet is not stone, it is a mirror. To approach it is not to read, but to be read. It strips away illusions until only what is eternal remains. Every line is less a sentence and more a doorway, a map for those willing to cross death, silence, and forgetting. What you fear as ending, the tablet reveals as passage. Death itself is unmasked, not the destroyer, but the threshold. The greatest secret it holds is not alchemy of lead into gold, but of fear into freedom. To face the tablet is to realize that what binds you was never matter, but illusion. And this is why it was never truly lost. Because it is inscribed not only on emerald, but on the architecture of the cosmos, and within the flesh of every seeker. You carry it already. The question is whether you dare to let it awaken. Some will leave with curiosity, others will feel a fire in the bones, an echo too sharp to ignore. If that resonance stirred within you, know this: it is not coincidence, it is calling. The tablet does not appear to entertain the many, but to initiate the few. The decision has always been the same: to remain asleep inside the cycle, or to rise as one who remembers. If this message resonated with you, step deeper with us. Subscribe to Infinity Echoes, not just to listen, but to begin walking the path. For this is not the end of a video, it is the opening of a gate, and only you can choose to cross it.